Welcome everybody to the next episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10, final draft day. Turned out to be a great draft, you guys. You're here with JP and Keaton. What's up, fellas?
Hey, man.
I'm good.
Well, it's late. We're doing a late show. We did a spaces earlier, went on longer than we expected, but we're here for the fans. So we're going to talk about the draft, who we picked up, and what it looks like moving forward, and maybe who we can grab in the undrafted guys. What's your guys' opinion right now, man? I mean, what are you thinking? I mean, what's your grade right now? Give me your grades.
You got to give it an A plus. I think anyone who watched the draft gave it an A plus if they knew what they were talking about. The Chiefs grabbed about one player from every position that they needed, especially corner, where they grabbed a bunch. A couple guys that can play corner and safety, and there were a lot of these guys who were guys that were rated a lot higher than where they were drafted. And the Chiefs were able to capitalize on that and take some of these guys that were passed on for things such as one of the corners that we got. I don't know which one it was. I think it was the one from Washington State.
Williams.
He ran a slow combine speed, but also put up one of the fastest times recorded at, I think it was the Senior Bowl or something, where he ran like 21.75 or 21.75 miles an hour.
Yeah, but I think he runs a 4.4, so that's not horrible.
Or even faster than that, because I think at 21 miles an hour, he just maybe not be a good 40 runner.
Okay, I don't know. They said I think it's what I read. I thought he ran a 4.40, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Caleb?
I think I say this draft's an A plus. Every need was addressed. Cornerbacks, we got 3 of them. We got 2 safeties. We got a running back and also a wide receiver and a linebacker. All those guys were really good. I know when Keaton and I were looking at our evaluations, a lot of the players we thought were going to be taken in this area were taken. And those players, for the most part, ended up on our list, aligned kind of the top 50 players who we thought players were going to be great. And it's very interesting kind of see it all play out, because you would see players be taken a little bit higher than they were. Like a Jahan Dotson was taken in the first round, which we had a second or third round grade on him. You had other players end up getting taken later, like the lineman that was taken today. I forgot his name, the Chiefs got. So, I mean, there's just many different factors that come into the draft at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think the best part about it was just the fact that we gained so many potential day one starters. I think you could make an argument that you got 6 starters from this draft. I think we all know the first 2 rounds, those guys are all going to be starters. And then, or maybe not the safety, Brian Cook. He might be a rotational piece to begin with. But then the 3rd round, you got the linebacker is definitely going to be a starter. He's going to be our starting strong side linebacker. And then who was the other? And then it was just another, other than Skye Moore. He's definitely going to be a starter. I think most of these guys are going to be a starter, and I think Brett Beach is going to let these other corners compete for a roster spot, because I don't think all of those guys are going to make the team, but I think he did a good job getting guys to compete.
Well, if you look at it, I mean, I think McDuffie was a great signing. I don't care what anybody says. His every bit of his production, and everybody that's talked about it has graded him like as one of the best in the draft, the top 3 in the draft as far as cornerbacks were concerned. Karlaftis, he's just an absolute beast. He's gonna run over. He's a freight train. I don't know that. I think what you're going to see out of him, maybe just from the outsider looking in, I think he may have a rotational position this year. I don't think you're going to see a whole ton of him unless somebody gets injured. I think they're going to let him maybe develop and probably take Clark's place next year. But that's just, conjuncture at this point, but, just thinking maybe that's probably what they're going to do, I guess I should say. But Skye Moore, definite starter. I mean, he's definitely going to be that kid there is great, and I was so happy because I wanted him, and we got him. He's got insane speed. His route running ability is phenomenal. He just is a great receiver. In fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, he was the one. Yeah, he had a team high 1,292 yards. 13.6 yards per reception, 10 scores, 12 starts. That's in 12 starts. So, he may not be, he's 5'10", 195. That's what a lot of people are considering him is almost our Tyreek replacement. Of course, he didn't have the 4.28 speed, but that's okay. He that will come, maybe in time. But I think he's going to be a huge asset for us. Let's see. Who else? Cook, man, I don't know what you guys think, but as a safety, I think he's an automatic starter.
Yeah, I think the reason he didn't go higher was just because he only had 1 year of production coming out of Cincinnati, and I think Beach highlighted that they were afraid that the Bengals might take him, but they didn't end up taking him, so they were happy with that because they think this kid has the potential to be one of the best players in the draft. And then another guy who I think has a potential that's kind of underrated right now that could not only make the team but compete for a starting position that we took in the 7th round was the Rutgers running back who ran a 4.37, if I believe, at like 220. And this guy didn't put up insane production in college, which is the reason he fell so far. But if you watch college football this year, you'd know why. It's because Rutgers O-line was probably one of the worst in college football. So This guy was running behind a bunch of trash cans, and he was still able to put up almost 700 yards, and he's prototypical NFL running back.
Yeah, I like that running back, actually. And I watched his film, and because when Caleb told me who he was, I watched some of his film, and he's got really good footwork, knows how to get skinny, can bounce to the outside really well. He looks really good to me. I think that's, it was a solid move. Cook is one of those guys that I'm really high on. I'm really high on him. Looking at his numbers, even though he didn't, again, like you said, Keaton, he didn't do a ton, but he set out the 19 season basically. He actually did a transfer and set out, but he had tremendous numbers for the amount of time that he played, and I think he's just going to get better. He had 451 snaps. Total snaps. So I think he's a really good asset to have. Let's see. I like Chanel out of Wisconsin. We needed a linebacker. I think he's going to complement. We've had people say that, what's he going to do? Take Willie Gay's place. I don't think they understand that, we had 3 when you really consider it with Bolton and Hitchens and then Willie Gay. You need 3 out there, and you got to have depth, and he's going to give you that. So, what do you guys think of him?
I think he can really help because we had Ben Neiman coming in last year. We need a good 3rd down linebacker, and that's what Chanel could possibly be for us. The guy is shown he can play. I know Keaton, we originally had him in our top 50, but we ended up taking him out because considered. Go ahead.
Yo, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Oh, because the guy we ended up putting actually got drafted before him, but it just showed you that Keaton and I considered him to be a dominant player and can help. So I really think he could really come to this team and help specifically on 3rd downs and even on running downs more particularly because the Chiefs defense has not been good guarding the run since like 2016.
This dude is very good, and he's a linebacker that is mostly going to be for stuffing the run, which is why he's going to be the strong side linebacker. And this is a smart pick because it allows every single one of our linebackers to play their natural position. That allows Bolton to play middle linebacker like he's used to. That puts Willie Gay as the weak side linebacker, so he could be more of a coverage guy, which is what he was brought in to do anyway. But last year he had to play sometimes like out of position. But he's a really good run stuffing linebacker, and he's probably one of the best, if not the best, run stuffing linebacker in the draft. PFF had him as the best, depending on if you believe everything they say or not. But he just needs to work on his coverage a bit, and I think all of our linebackers would be. That's something you can fix. I think whenever you look at players coming out of college, you want them to get stuff in the run, and then you can work on the coverage later. Because that's something a lot of times you don't always get better at. Whereas in coverage, you can get better, and it just takes the right coaches, which the Chiefs have put in place to get guys to unlock their full potential. And then the other guy I really like was the Darian Canard pick. He was like, I don't want to say like 2-time or 1-time SEC all SEC. He was a steal in the 5th round, I think, because he was supposed to be a 3rd rounder, I believe. That
I think you're right.
They usually kind of come out with these things later, but I think he just fell probably just circumstantially. I don't know why else he would have fallen.
He just fell
to us,
because
but
everybody was jumping on players that they assumed, whether it was a help for their team or not, they assumed that other teams of stature or value, or whether it be us or the Bills or somebody else, they jumped on him because they didn't want somebody else to get him.
and
That's a
I
lot
think
of the reason why he fell.
I think he has a really, really good chance, probably an underrated chance to be our day one starting right tackle, because we're not sure if Niang's going to be back in time. Wiley's fine, but he's not a superstar by any means. And I'd almost rather, a Darian Canard step in. So that way next year when, maybe you don't want to pay Wiley as much anymore, which we did have to pay him a little bit this year. And he's only on a 1-year deal, I believe. He could be either the backup right tackle. I know he has potential at guard as well. I saw someone even say that you might move, I don't know, our guard, I forgot his name. Oh my gosh, to right tackle, because he played in the Bengals game at right tackle whenever
Booney.
Yeah,
Booney played left tackle. He played left tackle because
I knew he played one.
Brown had a calf injury.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can develop him to play right tackle and guard, that would be extremely valuable for the Chiefs.
Well, he can play, actually, weirdly enough, he can play both sides, and he can actually play in the middle as well. That's the one thing that Tooney was most valued at, is the fact that he's very versatile and he can play pretty much anywhere on that offensive line. But you know what? I want to say something about Chanel. This guy, look, I'm reading some of his stats, and he was like honorable mention, all Big Ten conference honors, 46 tackles, 6 for a loss, 3 sacks, 1 interception. Then when he came back in 21 after sitting out a season, 18.5 tackles for a loss, 8 sacks, led the squad with 115 tackles and 2 forced fumbles in 11 starts to earn second team Associated Press All-American and Big Ten Conference Linebacker of the Year honors. Now, he accomplished this despite missing the 2019 season. So that's pretty strong. I mean, no matter how you look at it, those are good numbers. And I think he's humble enough. And, he's 6'3", 250. He's going to be, I think, a big asset for us.
I would agree.
Along. I mean, to me, it just seems like he's one of those guys that can do everything, and continue to improve. Now, let's see. Joshua Williams, I was really surprised he was in the 4th round, and I was excited as can be when I was, weirdly enough, I was actually somewhere else during this as it was going on, but it came across my phone, and I was just so happy that we got him. I don't know about you guys, but man, this kid, he's phenomenal. That was one of the guys that I really liked, and I don't know about you guys, but I really liked him. And I was kind of hoping that he would somehow fall to us, but Veach made those moves and did what he did to get who he wanted. We got him. What do you guys think of Josh?
I think Josh Williams is a great cornerback, a physical, tall cornerback that could replace, also to help with the situation we had with Travis Ward. He ended up going to the 49ers. I feel like at the end of the day, adding someone like him in the rotation is only going to help.
Yeah.
Because you need some tall physical corners, and the Chiefs have always lacked in that. After they traded away Marcus Peters, our cornerback room wasn't really the best until kind of Ward was able to get in there and kind of establish him. So I think Joshua Williams is a great guy. If you look at him, he's from an HBCU. Those guys can play down there. I think Deion Sanders is doing a great job by giving them a lot of recognition, trying to get them acclimated and get him kind of up into the national circuit. As we know, Mahomes was at the HBCU, I think, Combine Day, I believe that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a many different areas along there that's very important. But I really believe that the Chiefs got a steal in this round. This is a legit steal. It's not as big, I think, as the Darian Canard one, but Joshua Williams is a guy that's going to be here for your future and can help this team win.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think Joshua Williams isn't a guy we watched a ton of tape on, but obviously just because he was from a HCBU, we didn't get a lot of tape from there, obviously, because it's kind of hard to find. But it's just another point. I mean, we talked about it before this round of the draft that Veach loves these guys from these smaller schools.
Yes, he does.
And he not only got one from there, he got one from Marshall, who's a little bit smaller. Rutgers is not a great football program.
Big Ten school.
Washington State's not a very big program. I mean,
Pac-12.
all these guys are guys that could come in and with chip on their shoulder and try to take jobs, which I forgot to say earlier that Isaiah Pachow,
I loved it.
I don't know how to pronounce that specifically. He said that he was
ready to come in and take a grown man's job.
Hey, I'm ready for that. That's what you need.
I love that because he really does have a chance if he can make this team. He could definitely take carries away from Clyde and Rojo, and Rojo's the short-term answer. This guy could be the long-term answer.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's weird looking at Williams' numbers. I mean, just going back to Williams, I mean, his first season, he was like basically a reserve starter. His first true freshman season, 16 tackles, 2 pass breakups. I don't know, man. I'm really high on that kid. I think he's going to do really well in this scheme. He actually he had 34 tackles as a starter his first year, 3 for a loss, intercepted 2 passes in 11 games. The Broncos didn't play in 2020 or the fall of 2020, I should say. And he just kept going. So it proves that we can really benefit from what he's got. I do like Canard. I think that was a phenomenal move. Another one of each is, I mean, look, Fayetteville. I mean, he went to Jack Britt High School in Fayetteville. Just one of those guys that I think, and then I think he went to Fayetteville State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yep. Fayetteville State.
Yeah. And he had another one, 31 tackles, 3 interceptions, 1 return for scores, 6 pass breakups in 11 games. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm looking at this thinking, man, he knocked it out of the park with so many of these players in so many ways. I'm excited to see what these guys are going to do as day one starters. There was one that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted you guys' opinion on this kid because I didn't get to see a whole lot of film on him at all. But let me get to his name really quick because I can't really remember it at this point. Round 7 pick out of Marshall, I'm sorry. Is this right?
Nazee Johnson.
Yes. Yeah, Julene Johnson. Who is it?
Nazee.
Yeah, Nazee Johnson.
Nazee or Nazee. I'm not really. I didn't hear the
really sure how to pronounce it either. But and then I also want to hear about Pacheco because I saw a lot of good things about him, heard some good things about him, but I just want to know what your guys' opinion. Yeah, but let's go to Nazee Johnson really quick. 5'10", 199.
Super fast guy.
Stupid fast. I mean, crazy speed. Another high tackle guy. Each year he's like 59. I mean, 1 year 88 tackles, an interception, 59 tackles in a short season.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's probably going to play mostly special teams, but that is definitely not like out of the question for him to come in and play a little safety. I think at pick 259, you're really just looking for a guy that's going to come in and be a starting, because we did lose a lot of guys on special teams this year that we're not bringing back.
Yeah.
We had a lot of important pieces go, and I think they're trying to rebuild that. And I don't think he's going to play much. I could be completely wrong. But he is very fast. He could be a gunner. I like his potential as a safety too. So if he does develop, and he does make the team, then I that's all better. And I think to your point, the Pachow guy, I watched a story on him. He had a pretty rough upbringing. I think both of his siblings were actually murdered
Wow.
at
They actually
different
were.
times.
That's true.
And that's just crazy to me. And I know he said he wanted to make them proud by playing well in the NFL. So this is a guy that's got a huge chip on his shoulder. And he's going to come in, and I think he's not only going to make the team, but I think he's going to really compete with Gore, Rojo, and Clyde for touches this season.
I agree with you. Give me 1 second. I'm answering a text. That's weird. I got a text from somebody must have been on our spaces. Let me see something here.
So I'll go and start with Isaiah. I think it's Pacheco. I think that's how you say Pacheco. I think that's how you say his name. He's a great running back. I mean, to see his upbringing and see where he's at now, he's continuing to battle and fight every day. He's like you said earlier, he's ready to take someone's job. And because of that, he's going to be there working every single day. And that's something we need. He could possibly be the bruiser running back that the Chiefs need to get over the hump in certain cases. And I think he can really help and get some valuable touches in that room, because we see that looking at the past, Darrell Williams has looked like he's not there anymore. He's gone. Yeah. So I would really love to see what he can do and really help. He's probably might play some special teams, but I hope he gets a chance along with Gore. That 1-2-3 combo along with Rojo could be very beneficial. Now, Nazeeh Johnson, safety, I agree with Keaton. He's probably going to be a special teamer, but what I feel like he's going to get some playing time, and he could possibly get some of that playing time this year, and mainly because he's a hard-hitting safety.
Really is.
I think Veach has really, I said this earlier, their coaching staff has done their homework on all of these guys. And because of that, this is an A+ draft. They literally helped on every single need that they needed. They got 3 cornerbacks, a running back, an offensive tackle, 2 safeties, a linebacker, and a defensive end. That's mostly defense. That's what they needed, and I'm very happy.
And by the way, on Johnson, the dude ran a 4.35 40, and he's got a 42-inch vertical leap. That's absolutely very good. That's crazy good for a guy 5'10", basically 199.
Did you guys see the it gets posted after a lot of these draft picks. Did you see I think it's like the athletic score they get? Have you I don't know who posts those, but I think the Chiefs had a very high average on those. I think almost every single one of their guys, other than the tackle, was rated as one of the highest in their position at the draft on their athletic scores.
And I think the highest was a 9.99, and that was Leo. Leo had that, our linebacker.
Yeah, it was him.
And just to see how, and I think I forgot. I'll send you that his Twitter, Keaton. But to see the Chiefs get guys, more specifically in those positions that were that scored very, very high, shows that their football IQ is phenomenal. They can make plays. They see them before they happen. That's what you need on this defense. That's what they really need at the end of the day.
Here, I got something to say. Ole Miss running back Darian Ely is signing as an undrafted free agent with the Chiefs also. And he's a 3-time All-SEC performer. He's another guy that can make a difference. Mike Rose, a linebacker from Illinois State, is signing with us. Former South Dakota linebacker Jack Kroenke is signing with the Chiefs. So we got a bunch of free agents coming in that can also make a difference. And never forget about those undrafted guys.
Oh,
yeah, that's true.
That's the one thing that we stressed about for the last 3, 4, 5 years, is that those undrafted guys are usually the most hungry and the most determined, and they got a lot more to prove. They don't have that arrogance and chip on their shoulder. But one thing, going back to Isaiah Pacheco, Caleb, he played offense and defense.
He did?
Yeah.
What did he play in defense?
Let me look at this really quick.
That was just strictly a running back.
No, I apologize. That was actually in high school. He did that. He was a all-state notice on offense and defense as a senior at Vineland High School in New Jersey. Here in 3 starts and 12 appearances, his true freshman season. It says in 3 starts he had 3 touchdowns. or 12 starts. He had 3 touchdowns, averaged 5 yards a carry or 5.5 yards a carry. And then he was 11.5 yards in receiving, 19.3 yards in kick returns. Then it says, let me read this. He led the Scarlet Knights in rushing each of the next 2 seasons, starting 10 of 11 games played 2019. 4.3. I'm sorry. Let's see. 169 and 729 yards, and then 7 rushing touchdowns. His receiving numbers jumped tremendously that year. Then he received the Big Ten coaches voted him the RU captain, honorable mention, all conference after he paced the squad and rushing for the 3rd straight year in 2021. I think this kid really does have an opportunity to come into the system. I don't know if he's going to be an instant impact. I don't know if he can be one of the guys that you may see. He may be a practice squad guy for a little bit, or he may just be strictly like Keaton said on special teams for a little bit. But I think he has the potential to be really good. I'm really pretty surprised with him. I'm actually happy with everybody, dude. I don't know. Julene Watson, another one that just really great player. Veach just really went all out and did his homework like he has done every year. And when we were doing the spaces, there was a guy that said that Veach had, okay draft here, okay draft there. Well, here's the thing, and I'll just get into it really quick and get over it. You can have an okay draft. It doesn't have to be all stars on everybody you pick. Because if you got 4 picks and you land 1 or 2 of those guys that end up being phenomenal players, that's a win, no matter how you look at it. If you're pulling, like today, we had 10 picks in this draft. We took 10 people just in the draft alone. That doesn't include all the undrafted guys that Keaton just mentioned and the guys that we had prior to that, but that he did earlier in the day. But if you have, if you're at a 50% win rate in your drafts, you're a phenomenal GM. You're a phenomenal head coach, because a lot of guys, they can draft 5 guys and not get, 1. Maybe they'd be lucky to get 1. So this is, to me, I think Veach went all out. He did exactly what he did last year, and he filled every position of need. He wanted to make sure that he had multiple in certain areas. So if one didn't work out, the other one will, and they can develop along with, the rest of the guys. And that just complements what we already have.
And
so,
I don't know if you guys would agree on me, but I have a quick question for you guys. Do you guys think GMs actually do their homework? Because I'm feeling like it's not that hard, because Keaton, you and I have been looking at a lot of these players, and we only did it for like 3 weeks compared to these GMs that are doing it for months. And I feel like we did a pretty good job of realizing talent. Now, hindsight will tell us pretty soon if these players are good or not. But I'm kind of thinking, like, where are some of these GMs and some of their picks? Like, what is the understanding? Like, what are your guys' thoughts there?
well, here, one thing I will say, I'll take this one really quick because I've seen so many of them. It's weird because some GMs, again, will sit in an office and they will watch some tape.
Mm-hmm.
They'll listen to their scouting team, and they'll just recruit. They'll just draft. They don't put in as much time as like Veach does. And I know I keep bragging on him, but the guy travels and watches these guys. He doesn't sit and wait for them to come to him. He goes to them. And if he sees something that he wants, then he studies their tape. He asks for their tape and he studies it and he gets it sent to him. And when you're not lazy, I'm just going to say it, when you're not a lazy GM and you're expecting your scouts to do all the work, when you know that you were an ex-scout and you're better, because most GMs at some point had to have scouted prior to becoming a GM, that just kind of shows your tenacity. It shows the fact that you really want to understand who you're bringing in and who's going to fill those positions of need within within the system that they're going to. Some GMs just don't do it, dude. We've seen that with GMs that we've had. I mean, Carl Peterson back in the day, he brought in people because they had a name. And a lot of the guys that were drafted back in those days, that was done a lot by Marty. If you really want to know the truth, he did a lot of the scouting himself. So he wasn't the greatest scout. Scott Paoli was a horrible scout. John Dorsey only scouted people that had big names and that he saw on TV. And on, and that's just proven. I mean, if it wasn't for Veach, we wouldn't have who we have right now and have had or signed, I should say, for the last, at least 7 years, maybe 8. So I will give Dorsey, Kelsey. I'll give him that. Because that was I think that was right prior to Veach really becoming acclimated to everything. That was his first really year with the Chiefs as a scout, and because he came along with Andy. So, I mean, I will give him that, but Kelsey, who knows where Kelsey would have been if it wasn't for the help of Andy and the help of Veach, because that's all. So,
all right. I see what you're saying, man. That's a great point.
Sure.
What do you think, Keaton?
I agree. I like these. I like all these guys. I wanted to say one thing. I think we touched on it on the last podcast. With the extended season, and I know it's just one game for now, but it could be 2 next year. I think they were talking about moving it to 18. It's going to take some time for this defense to mold. And I know we've been saying that the last couple of years, but this is the year where our defense actually has a chance to be top 20, because rolling into last season, I think we knew our defense didn't get a whole lot better. We may have made some minor signings, but this year we're having, at least on the defensive side of the ball, I can think of right now 5 new players, maybe more by the time the season starts. It's gonna be interesting to watch. I'm very excited to watch what this defense can do this season. We're a bunch of playmakers, a bunch of athletes, which we did not have last year. We had guys that have been on the roster for a while that may be getting older in age, such as a Neiman or Sorensen, starting on our offense or on our defense. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see some of these young safeties and how they can make an impact their first year. But obviously, it's going to take games to get started. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar start to our defense as we saw last year. But then as the season progresses, we get hundreds and hundreds of times better than we were last year. And to add to that, we still have, after this draft is over, we'll have around $10 million in cap. I want to throw a scenario at you guys. If we were able to bring back Melvin Ingram and then make one more signing on defense, such as an Akeem Hicks from Chicago, which is very much a possibility with a couple of restructures that wouldn't be major, I think we would have a top 10 defensive line. I think.
Well,
I don't have no. Go, JP.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say it's not as nowhere near out of the realm of possibilities that we bring back Melvin Ingram, because he's not asking for a ton of money. We actually touched that on Spaces and how we're because somebody had mentioned that Veach didn't do anything with the defensive line, and they thought he was done. And Veach is never done. He's going to complete the defensive line. One thing that I will say about where we were last year versus where we are this year, bringing in new players, the one thing that I can say, and I said this on Spaces earlier, is that we don't have the issue so much with the depth chart. And that is going to allow, I think Veach has learned, Spags has learned his lesson a little bit with this depth chart mindset. But I think what we're going to see is a lot of guys that may not be able to, they say they don't pick up the packages quickly enough, but I think they have the vision to be able to go out and make an impact, similar to what Willie Gay did, that may not have known it very well, but he also didn't care and went out and whatever he saw, he went out and he took. Nick Bolton was an instant day one impact. And he knew it very well. Maybe he slightly under in pass coverage, but everything else he did extremely well. He did his job the right way, earned the green dot. I mean, in his rookie season. So what's to say that, this doesn't happen this year, given the fact that we don't, really we have Snead, we've got Baker, which really hasn't seen the field much. We've got Thornhill, that is, now a 3 year, was his third year, I guess. Yeah, third year.
This is fourth.
Fourth year.
I think so. Yes, this is the fourth year.
Fourth year, because he had the injury. So you can't really rely on that depth chart thing, and we don't have enough like veteran starters on our team to fill out the roster. So, I mean, or I shouldn't say veterans, but tenured players to fill out the roster other than the guys that we have. So I think that we just drafted. So we may see a quicker start given the fact that we don't have the older players. We don't have the guys that were complacent. We don't have the guys that were slow. We've got speedier guys that have high football IQs that may be able to come in and make instant impact. We may have one of those defenses that normally takes 8 weeks to gel that may gel in 4 or 5.
I do agree with that, and I think for some of these players, such as the linebacker, our new strong side linebacker, I think it's going to just take some time, and there's going to be growing pains, but I think we're going to see flashes of a top 10 defense at points in this season. Yeah. And I don't think it's out of the question to say that, with all of these rookies starting, we could have one of the best defenses in the NFL, because we just don't know what it's going to be. And it could be good. I think it's most likely going to be much better than last year, but I wouldn't be disappointed early on if we weren't as good. But
so funny you say that, man. It's so funny you say that, because exactly what I said on Spaces, I said, hey, man, if everybody starts flipping out, by week 3, because our defense isn't top 5, I'm going to blow a head gasket, because look, we haven't been, we're never top 5 or even top 15 week 3 or week 4, no matter who the hell's been on our team.
Exactly.
So
it takes to week 8. If you look at the last couple of years, weeks 1 to week 8 is when they won't have to figure it out. Once it's after week 8, they got a good idea kind of
exactly
what they're going to do.
I mean, that's exactly it. And when you're working with a different defensive coordinator like Spags, it's really kind of different than most. He has a lot of packages, so it takes time even for veterans to be able to grasp them and understand offenses and what package they need to go into. Even if Spags is spitting it out there, they still have to understand those packages. And we've all seen it, that some all pro players that have come in and struggled a little bit until they've grasped it. And every year it seems like, whether it be Tyrann Mathieu or even the defensive line or other guys that were all pros, it took them time to acclimate, because Spags changes things up so much. So, and he makes up new plays. He's similar to Andy in that regard, because he does change up plays a lot, and he comes up with new plays basically overnight. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not texting somebody on the golf course, like Andy did Mahomes, and saying, hey, I just got this play. I know you're playing golf, but hey, hold on. And Mahomes held up and he read the play. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see something of that nature. So I wouldn't be depressed.
Agree with that. I think what I'm most impressed about with this team right now is the depth at almost every position. We got that linebacker from the Panthers I was talking to you with you about the other day, who I would have been completely fine with being our backup linebacker, who is now going to be probably a third string. We also got Deion Bush from the Bears, who I was also fine with being our third option at a safety, who's now probably going to be your third or fourth. So down the line, I think we're going to be a much better defense, because last season we had hardly any depth past our ones that would come in and make an impact. I think this year, with all these rookies coming in, all this potential, all this athleticism, you're going to see a much better depth chart than we have had the last couple of years, especially on defense, and as well as running back and line.
And I think the only thing that scares me is just going back to last year, what we saw with Spags continually to do the depth chart mindset when it came to guys like Neiman Sorensen. They're not there now. So the hope is that they let these guys play and get the opportunity to play, because I feel like we wasted some players' talent primarily because they stuck with those guys and did not give the younger group a chance. That could have been more impactful. That's kind of something I saw. I'm hoping can change, but I really think the Chiefs are in a great position for this draft class. And one point we haven't really touched on is George Karlaftis.
Love that guy.
That guy is a monster. Wherever he's going to go, he's going to take out like 3 or 4 guys with him. And he's really going to help Chris Jones. So,
without a doubt.
And I just feel like when you look at it in the day, having guys like this is very important. Now, Keaton, I don't know if you saw this, but the players we were really high on, like Apparel Winfrey, was took at the beginning of the 4th round within 5 picks. So
he flew off the board whenever we flew.
And I was like, well, I mean, hey, that shows he has value, huh?
I forgot to count, but I believe on our mock draft, we only had a couple guys that didn't end up going in the 4th or the 1st round. I think we had nailed the guys that we had projected 1st rounders. I think the only ones that slipped were the Malik Willis, which I don't think anyone possibly could have seen that coming. And then we also had our prediction on Nakobe Dean was a little off, but it was just because of his medical, so I don't think that's really the greatest reason. Speaking of, the Eagles got a steal, still getting him like in the 3rd round. I think that's going to end up being one of the big talking points when you're looking back at this draft of how Nakobe Dean declined shoulder surgery. And it ended up not being a big deal, and he was able to play as a all-pro, quickly through his career. I really wanted the Chiefs to get him. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, I thought they were going to. I know when we looked through our top 50 players, a good amount of them were drafted in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
A lot of them were in the 1st round, but players like you said, like Nakobe Dean fell. But I was kind of surprised to see where some of these players went. Also, like a Tyler Beatty, I think he went the 7th round. But I think Matt Ariza wasn't. I don't think he was the first punter taken off the board.
He was like the 3rd punter taken off the board.
I don't understand why, but
they were talking about possibly the reason. So I'm a former kicker, and it makes sense to me because he did have a little bit of struggle with hang time in college, but I think who got them? Was it the Ravens that took him?
No, so. It's a rival, and it's not one of the No, wait. It might be. No, it's not the Broncos. I forgot. It's a team we're going to have to be playing against.
Okay.
And I was like, they can really flip the field.
Anyway, I think whoever got him got a great player because it was the Bills. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. You're right. It was the Bills.
And I think he's obviously going to be the starter. I think he just needs to fix his hang time a little bit. But other than that, I think he sacrificed in college because you can either kick it high and short or long and, more of a line drive, which is what we saw on some of his 80-yard punts, which they were awesome punts. But you have to look at that going in the NFL. Those 80-yard punts can't happen because if you kick a line drive to a Tyreek Hill back there, he's taking it to the crib.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, risky, but I think he does have great potential as a punter day one. And I think that the announcers were completely right about this guy that I think if you listen to some of these special teamers get picked, they were talking about how Evan McPherson, the kicker for the Bengals, he was selected in, I think, the 6th round, ended up being very good for them this year. I think that some of the kickers were taken more highly off the board because other teams saw what the Bengals got last year and they want a piece of that. So they wanted to trade up, and they also made the comparison for Cowboys Dak Prescott, who was taken in the 3rd round. The next year in the draft, a lot of these quarterbacks who were maybe more developmental projects were taking higher because of what Dak Prescott did his first year, which I think is interesting because I haven't really thought about it like that. But it makes sense to like some of these guys that maybe gone late and then teams notice how well they did in the NFL and then they just want to get those guys. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And I feel like when it comes down to the day, if you do your homework, you're gonna find those guys. Like Keaton and I were like really looking at our list and trying to figure out who's gonna go where, who's gonna go what's the ranking. And I feel like I feel like we did a pretty accurate list for the most part.
It will
I
be
mean,
tough to tell
Austrian
until after the season, to be honest. Because we can't really, because of all these people giving out draft grades, they really don't know until after the season where people have actually played. You can have an A+ draft grade going out of the draft and then still have an F by the end of the draft just because, or by the next year or the years coming, because maybe players didn't pan out like you thought they would. But nobody really knows until these guys finish their careers how well these drafts are. Because we can look back at the 2000, I don't know what draft that Chris Jones and Tyreek Hill were drafted out of.
2015.
That was the best draft out of any of those teams. And yet we probably didn't get the best draft grades that year because I don't think Tyreek Hill was very regarded or highly regarded because of, his off the field issues. And then Chris Jones was, I think, a reach. Some people consider it a reach at that point in the draft as well. So once again, don't pay too much attention to the draft grades and just wait for the season to be over to make any, final projections. Because I know the draft or the Jets had probably one of the best drafts, and I think it's easy to say now, but what if one of those top guys didn't play as well as you thought they would? Maybe
that is true.
Maybe a Sauce Gardner comes in and he's getting burnt every play.
Yeah.
And he looks like a bust. Well,
yeah,
that happens. And I think we've seen that happen with the Lions corner from a couple of years ago. Who I still think has good potential. He was taken, I think, 3rd overall, and he didn't pan out in the NFL. And it's no diss on him. It's just some guys just don't make it.
Yeah. And I was just trying to bring point to like the looking at these top players. There is going to be some ones that stand out, and also there's going to be some flops. But I feel like Keaton, if we do the homework, we can kind of figure out where people go, and that's the one thing. Just shout out to you, Keaton. I appreciate the help. With this.
Oh, for sure. We did a lot of work on that this year. I think we're going to end up being right on a lot of these because there were some guys that really did surprise me. I thought Justin Ross would definitely be drafted in the 3rd, 4th round. He's undrafted. And that kind of stuff you can't predict because some of these guys have medical issues that people like us can't see. So I really do think we're going to have one of the better draft boards by next season because, I don't think anyone nailed the top 4 like we did. We got Aiden Hutchinson, we had Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Stingley, and Sauce Gardner in that order, and that's how they went. So, and we also go ahead. We also
and I'll just go. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry,
man.
We nailed the order of how the tackles were going. We nailed the order of the corners by the most part, the top corners, and we also nailed. What was the other thing? The wide receivers we did pretty good on those as well because we had a lot of those guys higher than other people because we knew that they would go early.
Yeah. Everybody. I think there was a lot of work put into it, and it's crazy because it just goes to show you how much effort some people put in, and some just like look at other people's draft boards and go, okay, well then I'll just go off that. I mean, you can't just do that. I mean, it's impossible to do. It's virtually impossible. It's similar, like I said, that we're going to take an alignment today. I told him yesterday we were going to go for an alignment, and we ended up getting an alignment. I knew that because of other reasons that I've heard, and the fact that we needed the depth. But regardless if something happens or not, but we definitely needed the depth there because a couple of guys didn't come back. We don't have LDT. We don't have. We didn't bring back.
It's not Wiley.
No.
Was it Reader?
No. What's his name? That never played. We brought him in, but he never really played. Broke his hand.
Oh, Kyle Long.
Kyle Long.
Yeah.
So there, you got to have depth in those positions because if you don't, we've seen what's happened in the past when you don't have depth, especially on the O-line. I mean, Mahomes gets stepped on by his own guy twice, which really pissed me off. But it was already on an injured ankle. But you just have to have those special guys that that are going to step in and be able to fill some shoes, and that's what they're building for the future, man. They're building they're building everything for the now and the future, and that's what I love about what they're doing.
Yeah. And one thing, looking back at our mock draft, even the player picks we got wrong, Keaton, we were in 2 or 3 of pretty much where they went to.
The only one that was really off was just the Malik Willis, which I don't know.
Everybody was off on that.
That made no sense to me.
It still doesn't make sense, to be honest, because I think they said something about him being in a more simplistic offense. He may need more time to learn in the NFL, but the talents are there. And whenever Tennessee took him, I was mad because he's a good quarterback, and they got a deal with him.
Well, he has Derrick Henry, and they just got Titans got I forgot who, but they got another good running back. So they'll be able to ease him in. Who?
They got Traylon Burks, and they got Robert Woods from the the Rams.
Yeah.
So he's set. He's set. Honestly. So
yeah, they brought up 2 things about him. One of them was that they said he didn't play. One of them was he didn't play against anybody. So of course his numbers were inflated supposedly, but and also that his offense was somewhat simplistic compared to others. But again, he did well when he was at Auburn. So it really made 0 sense to me why he didn't go top 5, especially with 3 teams that had really no quarterback or needed one. I mean, why wouldn't you just? Why? I still am. I don't understand. I mean, I get why Pittsburgh picked up who they did because they like the bigger quarterbacks they always have. I mean, but again, Seattle needed a quarterback really bad.
They didn't take one. I think they took an undrafted one.
Seattle must have really not liked him because they passed on him like 10 times.
Yeah, man. And then they traded up twice with us. So, I mean, I don't know. That was just weird. It was weird all the way around to me, but it is what it is. I mean, you can't really change it. You just hopefully I just want to see the kid succeed because I think he's one of those very humble, great guys that has a ton of talent and a lot of football IQ. And he needs to make it in this league.
Okay.
He deserves to make it.
Caleb, did you see that Tyler Beatty went to the Ravens?
Yeah, I saw that.
I think he's got a shot to be RB1 there.
He does. I think Tyler Beatty, I don't think he should have dropped to the 7th round, but I think he has a really good chance to do something great with them and be their RB1 because they need running back help. I think pretty much all the running backs last year running backs last year were hurt due to injury. They have someone that can come in, play. He wasn't really, he was used at Missouri, but he wasn't used a bunch. So I think he can really help moving forward with the Rams because they're having a lot of issues and they're probably just going to run the ball a bunch.
And then
they're probably not going to pass. Huh?
Mechie went to the Texans as a guy I was really high on. I really thought he would fall to us, and I think we definitely could have traded up for him. But I guess I know that the Chiefs had Skye Moore ranked higher than Mechie because they would have gotten their guy had they thought Mechie was better because they knew that he was going to go at some point.
Yeah.
But I really like what they did because they wanted Skye Moore, and he definitely wouldn't have gotten much farther than 54, but they were able to acquire a 5th rounder, which equated to a very good pick for the Chiefs, which was Darian Canard.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you guys saw the video of when he got drafted. I thought it was pretty
saw
funny.
it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And then I guess they got the 5th rounder for basically just the same player because they thought he would still be around, which I thought was a great move. And he also got a little clap from all of his assistants because it was the first time he moved down in the draft. Which is kind of funny. But that's an underrated pick. I think he's gonna do wonders for the Chiefs to come because when you look at guys being taken, they might have the talent to do it, but are they going to get the ball? Skye Moore is going to get thrown to a lot, and he's going to put up similar to production as some of these top wide receivers because he is filling a much needed role. And some of these other guys that are wide receivers may be taken, but they're going to be behind a lot of other guys. Skye Moore is not going to be behind anyone, and he could possibly command the 2nd most targets on our offense.
And they can ease him into it easily because they have a lot of weapons. One thing I would say about John Mechie, Keaton, he was taken at 44, which was, I think, 6 picks away from what we originally thought. But honestly, the crazy thing was Pickens was there for the Chiefs at 50. They traded it back and got Skye Moore, which they were confident he would be. And I'm like, that's a good move.
Yeah, and the thing about Mechie was we were really high on him as a possible, not possible, but we thought he would have first round talent. And he was projected to go around 60 to 70, and he was taken at 44. So that just shows that other teams were thinking the same thing as we were, and he probably could have gone even higher than that, or a lot higher than that, actually. Had he not had the ACL tear, I bet he would have been, if not a late first round or early second rounder.
Oh, for sure. And when you look at and trying to figure out the players and where they're going to go, honestly, it's a difficult task. But once I kind of started to see the board start to fall in the Chiefs' favor, I mean, I would have liked George Pickens, but look, Skye Moore is a lot better, honestly, for the help in this offense. Just looking at the way the draft fell and the way Veach was able to just finesse. I mean, he traded with the Patriots twice, and both times it helped.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you wouldn't think Belichick. I mean, when Veach does a trade, he makes sure he gets some picks back too. He's not just going to go all out. And I think that's very important because it allowed us to get Canard. It allowed us to get the players that really need to help this team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think,
well, there's a ton of
take some
respect.
time.
That shows a lot of respect too. I mean, there's a lot of respect between Belichick and Andy and between the two teams really. But it also kind of gives you an indication that they do talk. And if for anybody that doesn't think they don't, but there may be a player in this round that Belichick wanted and, a player that we wanted in the other round, and it just kind of worked out in both of their favors. So, and it also kind of shows their intelligence because they know what player is going to fit within their scheme the best. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best player on paper. It's who's going to fit in your scheme the best, and that's who they're going to go for. That's what most intelligent coaches, GMs do. You don't see guys that just go out and dive all over everybody just because they got great numbers on paper. That's usually what these, a lot of GMs do, but these guys don't. They go for what is going to fit within their system and benefit their team the most. And that's what I loved about what they both did, really. I tell you what, the Patriots are going to be sneaky good next year. I can tell you they're going to be. This is the year that I think the Patriots are going to prove their point when it comes to that division.
They took a quarterback today? They took a quarterback today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy from Western Kentucky who was really good.
I don't know what. Yeah. I don't know how that makes sense. I guess as a backup. I know Belichick loves developing those guys and then trading them for draft picks.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does. I mean, he's done it forever. So I don't know why he wouldn't stop, but or why he would stop, I should say. But yeah, he's done a great job of that, and he loves developing, especially defensive players. He'll develop a defensive player and then trade him for what he wants. Especially if he's got depth in that position. It kind of shows you how confident he is in himself too. Like he did that JC Jackson trade, and if one thing it tells me is that Jackson must not be as good as everybody assumes he is, because if he was, Belichick wouldn't have traded him off. Not that soon. It just wouldn't have happened.
Well, I think he was a free agent, but I get your point. I also think he doesn't like paying those guys, crazy amounts of money. He only is okay with guys that will take little pay cuts here and there to help out the team. And I don't think he thought that JC Jackson was being much of a team player, asking for more money from them than he probably even got with the Chargers. So
well, and it's crazy you think about it. You're right in some degree, because Brady was I think he was the 15th highest paid quarterback all the way through through the last tenure of his career with the Patriots, when he did so much for them in quotation marks. He was the 15th highest player or quarterback in the league at the time. So he didn't make a ton of money. He wasn't getting the huge money. He didn't get it until he actually went to the Bucs. So it kind of tells you, it speaks volumes to how they operate up there. And it also says to me that it could also say to me that maybe Brady took it because, one, his wife's loaded, and two, he may have thought that if he was with in a very good division, that he may not done nearly as well. So it could have been a combination of a few things why he, Brady with all those Super Bowls stayed at that low pay rate compared to all the other contracts that were coming out. So it just gives you, perspective on what the Patriots do and how we operate too. Because Veach is not going to pay somebody crazy money unless they are definitely worth it. And he is realizing that he can continue with this talent, and every 4 or 5 years, if they, you get to your fourth year, and if they are somebody that you definitely want to keep, you sign him to a 3 or 4, 3 to 5 year deal. And then there's always an out for him. So I like the way he's really putting everything together at this point.
I agree. Real quick before we go, what is one player from this Chiefs draft class you think is going to have immediate success?
How about one player? How about one player from each of the days
Okay, we'll do that.
that you like the most?
Okay, so we'll go with day one. So what do you guys think? Let's go with day one. We'll go around the table. So Keaton, what player do you think on day one is going to be that has immediate success?
I think that the George Karlaftis pick was possibly one of the best picks in the first round by any team, just because he was projected to be so high off any draft boards. There was J.J. Watt comparisons. He is probably an unlimited motor, which means he can stay out there the whole game and rack up sacks for us. I like his attitude. I think he was talking about how he wants to sack Russell Wilson because he's little. I like that. And then Garrett Bowles tweeted back out at him and said, "I like fresh meat." And everyone tweeted back at him, "Have you beat Kansas City in your whole career?" So that was really funny to me.
Hold on. Whoa. Hold on. Say that last part. What happened?
Garrett Bowles, the tackle for the Broncos, tweeted out, "We like fresh meat," after what our defensive end said. And then everyone was subtweeting that and saying, "Have you beat the Chiefs in your whole career?" Because he was like a really high draft pick a long time ago. And it's been about that long since the Broncos have beat the Chiefs. So I thought it was hilarious.
That's funny. I'm going to go with Skye Moore. I think he's
So
going to have
JP. Sorry, day one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Trent McDuffie, you're good, man. Trent McDuffie or George Karlaftis.
You know what? I'm going to have to go with McDuffie on day one because I think I have a strange feeling that as much as I think he's going to be able to be an impact as far as Karlaftis is concerned, I think he may have a little bit of a growing spurt, some growing time. And I think McDuffie is ready to go right now. I think he's going to have a really good, impactful season. That's just me. What about you?
I'm going to say Karlaftis. How do I say? Is it
Karlaftis?
Karlaftis. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to mispronounce it. Karlaftis, I think he's just a phenomenal guy. Defensive end, the edge we need that can create intensity, pressure, and get to the quarterback. That's what the Chiefs need at the end of the day. They need a guy that can pair along with Frank Clark. Hopefully they bring back Melvin Ingram. And if they can do that and have all that together, it's going to work out there.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. I'm really, really happy. All right, day two. So the picks we got is Skye Moore, Brian Cook, or Leo Chanel. So we're going to start with Keaton again.
All right. Well, okay. So one thing I wanted to note is that I'm always surprised about how, Brett Veach uses some of these players. I don't know which one of these guys that are safeties can also play corner. So Brian Cook, and I don't know which one will potentially play more corner or whatever. But for now, I'm going to take Leo Chanel because I know everyone else is going to take Skye Moore, which I'm also really happy with him. I think Leo Chanel is the day one starter for the Chiefs at Sam. I think he could be a guy that could have a season much like Bolton had this season as this strong side linebacker, because he played that very early on in the season. I think Leo Chanel could be even better than that because he's the best run stuffing defensive or a linebacker in the draft. So he could come in and get those tackles for losses like Bolton did, and then maybe even add some sacks on top of that.
Okay. What do you think, JP?
I'm still going with Skye Moore. I think he's got the talent, and I think he's exactly what we were looking for. And as far as day one, I think when he rotates in with some of these packages or schemes that Andy puts together, he's going to be able to pick them up very quickly because everything that I've read about him and seen as far as tape is concerned, his football IQ is off the charts, and he's a speedy guy, a little bit smaller. And he's going to be able to almost fill that. He's not a Tyreek Hill, so don't, if anybody takes it this way, that's not what I mean, but I think he can almost fill that spot and be able to excel with it. I think they're going to,
Okay.
I really kind of think they're going to kind of simplify to a degree our offense just simply because of the other wide receivers that we picked up at the beginning. So that's just my opinion. What about you, bro?
The player I think, and this is a tough one. I'm going to say Brian Cook. I think he allows for the rotation wise. I think he's going to be able to come in and help. As we saw, he had, I think, 0 touchdowns allowed in coverage.
Yeah,
and if you can allow to bring someone like that into this cornerback group that's already good with a Justin Reed and a Juan Thornhill, he can only get better. And I really, and he's a hard hitter too. He can tackle. He is not afraid to get down there, set the edge, and get a tackle. So he could possibly also play box safety and have come down low. He could honestly, though, too, be our roamer because Spags likes to do a 3 safety set. So
I think that's a really underrated pick because I heard somewhere he had one of the highest one. It was I don't know. I think it was Brian Cook who had one of the highest Wonderlic scores in the whole draft. So that it's just a test on like smartness. I don't know. I don't know if it's NFL or just like in general. But that's a really underrated pick, and I applaud you for saying that because a lot of people have been dissing on that pick.
Well, no, I appreciate it, man.
And hey, look, and to add to that, to compliment to what you said, he was ranked top. Well, he was one of the best safeties in the country in 2021, but I think he was ranked top 5 in the country.
Okay.
So,
pretty good.
That's strong. So, I don't know. I agree with you there. You know, it's strange how we can all have different perspectives on who's going to be, but it's all because they have so many great attributes, you know? So anyway, moving on.
I hear you. The last group. So we got Joshua Williams, Darian Canard, Jalen Watson, Isaiah Pincheiro, and Nazeed Johnson. So which one in that group you guys think will have the immediate impact?
I know who you're gonna pick, Keaton. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just like him. I just like his story. I like his attitude. He's not a guy that's gonna come in and be okay with being a backup running back. He will forever want to be the starting running back, which I think a lot of guys in the NFL get complacent with where they are. I think that was a problem somewhat with what the Chiefs had. I think that Clyde got a little bit too complacent with how he's been producing the last couple of years. And I think this is a guy who made, I know Clyde saw that tweet. I know it.
He did.
And this is a guy who's going to come in and he really is going to try to take jobs. And I think that he has a very good chance to with his size and speed. And I think that he brings something different that a lot of our other running backs don't bring, which is that high end speed that, we haven't seen. I don't think we've seen a running back on the Chiefs that ran a 4.37 ever. He kind of reminds me of a Jonathan Taylor type running back, kind of the same height, weight, same 40 time. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to not only the running game, but the passing game as well, because I know he was also an excellent, he had excellent hands out of the backfield.
Yeah. Well,
all right, awesome. I agree with that's a good assessment, man. JP, which guy do you think in that group?
It's hard for me. I'm stuck between two. It's a little difficult for me, but I'm gonna go with I think I'm gonna go with Messiah Johnson.
Okay.
I think he's got immense talent, very underrated. His size and his weight doesn't coincide with his play. It's just not. It's not. And a lot of times that happens, but I think he has a lot of attributes that we need. And looking at, I watched his film later when I got home today, and what little I could find on him, but to me, I think he's got everything that we need in that position, and I think he can make a really good impact fairly quickly. So, What about you, bro?
This is tough. I'm torn between two players. If I'm thinking that a player is going to step in that can really help and challenge, This is tough. For me, it's between Joshua Williams and Darian Canard, but my heart is leaning towards Canard. And the reason why is because Veach has done a really good job of drafting tackles later in the round, or just offensive linemen in general. We got Nick Allegretti, who helped on the Super Bowl winning season. We've gotten guys in the past. Most recently, Trey Smith, pancake man all season, serving them up. Should have been serving up pancake blocks all season. I really think he can step in and really help have another anchor on this offensive line, and that he will help run the ball down these teams' throats. And I think they can do a lot with him. So I think this is just a steal of the draft right here. Him in the 5th round.
Yeah. That was a great pick. I mean, that was very smart on Veach's part to do what he did and move up to get him. He had that in mind. That's who he wanted, and that's what he did. So,
I think that's what's funny about what we just did is the fact that every single one of the players got picked except for 2 as our favorites. So that just shows you. That just shows you. You know, each one of these guys brings something special to the team that anyone can fall in love with, and any of these guys can be an instant impact for this team.
Definitely. I think what I like about Isaiah is the fact that he's one of those hungry guys that came late, and I think he's one of those guys that's going to do everything he can to learn very quickly and prove himself. And every time we have grabbed somebody like that, they have not only shown their worth, but they've outperformed anything that you would expect them to do. And that's what I like about him. And I think he's got that mentality. And on paper, he looks great too, but I don't really care about the paper as much as I do their mentality and their work ethic, and he's got it. So that's just, why I kind of go towards those later round guys that just, he could have went undrafted. I mean, he really could have. So he was right there at that breaking point of being undrafted. And that's what Veach likes. He wants him to sit, stress out, sweat it out. And then he tells him, hey, man, you know what? You could have easily went undrafted and not been picked up by anybody. So let's see what you got. Prove the world wrong, type of situation.
I agree, man. I agree. So, but yeah. But it looks like we covered it pretty much all, man. Guys, that's a pretty good draft. I say A+.
Definitely. There, and by the way, everybody, almost every single draft person, I shouldn't say person, but analyst, and a lot of just analysts in general that actually have, I would say, how should I word this without being rude? That makes sense, I guess, that actually understand and not just go after because of their position. They have all said that the Chiefs had probably the best draft. Well, they all said they had the best draft for filling the positions of need with the right players. And there was only, I think, 1 or 2 that gave us less than an A+. So
okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean it's a standout thing for us. So, but with that being said, we pretty much covered everything. I think that's all we got for tonight. But this show will actually come out tomorrow because we're doing this very late. It's actually 12:45 in the morning. So good old draft weekend. Where's you slick? But it's well worth it with the excitement.
I did want to add one thing. There's going to be a lot of information coming out in the next couple of days about rookie mini camp, who else the Chiefs assigned undrafted free agent wise, and all that. And I probably want to do another podcast if it's possible, maybe at the start of rookie training camp when we hear about who all the Chiefs have brought in as possible starters.
Definitely.
You name the time, we'll be ready.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Anytime.
That's awesome.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, we appreciate everybody listening, and we will talk to you soon. We'll probably be doing it, once we hear some more information about some of these players, we'll jump on a Spaces and get your guys' input on it. And then we also have a podcast coming out next week. So with that, enjoy your Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you next time, guys.
See you guys.
Peace out.